Today, I'm going to talk to you about something very, very important. Important in the sense that it's not to stereotype anyone, not any wing, be it the left wing or the right wing. It's not to point out or blame any particular community. But it's a very important discussion in the sense that, of course, we all have a share of differences when it comes to political ideologies. But how low can a discourse go? Now, I'll give you a simple example. Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, a few weeks ago, he was admitted to the hospital due to some health issues. And of course, the people who are on the right, they have a lot of disagreements with the former Prime Minister for a lot of ways of his governance. But even then, they wished well for him. They wished him a speedy recovery, irrespective of the politics in between. Now, these were people on the right. Yesterday, somewhere around evening, the news came in that our Home Minister Amit Shah, he had been tested positive for COVID-19, and he tweeted out that he was getting admitted to a hospital as a precaution, and rightfully so. Some people actually took joy in that news. They were very happy to hear that the Home Minister, the current Home Minister, is suffering from COVID-19. A lot of them were, like some of the random profiles on the internet, they were calling for the death of the Home Minister. They were calling for the health to further deteriorate. And one of them actually said that he could have waited until the Tabela Pujan. What he went here was that the Ram Mandir Bhumi Pujan, which is on 5th August, just a couple of days from now, he meant that Amit Shah could have stayed until then. He was not only insulting the Ram Mandir or the Home Minister, he was just calling, in a sense, for the death of the Home Minister. But these were random profiles. One tweet that caught my eye was that of Atish Taseer. Now, for those who don't know or who don't follow, Atish Taseer is one of the columnists for the New York Times. More importantly, he's the son of Tavleen Singh, which I think gives him this attention. Tavleen Singh is a known novelist. She writes columns for the Indian Express and many other newspapers. And she's been in this business for almost 3 decades now, more than that perhaps. And that is why Atish Taseer is known in a lot of circles. A few months ago, he was in the controversy circles because of some fake details he had furnished for a renewal of his OCI card. So he made a very insensitive and a very crass tweet. He said it's the moral obligation that calls upon wishing healthy recovery for people like Amit Shah. He used a cuss word which I will avoid for the sanctity of this video. But his point was that why are we obligated to wish recovery for the Home Minister for the evil things he's done? That's what his claim was. Of course, a lot of other people with verified profiles backed his claim, the likes of them being Ashok Swain. Now, this is the left culture, the left hate culture. And this is not just one instance. This is not about Amit Shah. I think in 2017, there was this another controversy I can recall. This related to Narendra Modi just around his birthday. One of the columnists who wrote for a lot of periodicals and digital outlets, I think his name was Supratik Chatterjee. He tweeted rather, that Modi is 1 year closer to death. Hashtag I choose optimism. Then people dug up his old tweets, and one of them was that LET was planning to kill Narendra Modi at one point of time. The world just putting it out for good luck. Of course, the people had a backlash to it in 2017, and the Quint, which is another digital period outlet, it disassociated itself from this guy, Supratik Chatterjee. What followed then was rather interesting. What happened then? Varun Grover, who you might remember from the CA protests and his very absurd poem Kagaz Nahi Dikhayenge, though as a stand-up comedian, he wants everyone to come to his comedy show paying tickets, showing their ID cards, but he had this random poem, absurd poem, Kagaz Nahi Dikhayenge, and he's also one of the writers for Sacred Games. So he said that the Quint was overreacting. Now, here's this man who's calling for the death of the Prime Minister. He's celebrating the idea of the death of the Prime Minister. The likes of Varun Grover, who again have a very strong following in the left circles, they were saying that Quint is overreacting. And he wasn't alone. There were a lot of other verified profiles doing the same thing. Now, this is again not the last instance or the first instance when something like this happened. What we saw on Instagram during the CA protest, that was also very interesting. I was on Instagram throughout that while. And what the left was doing was not questioning the CAA or the act. They were not discussing that. No, they were doing nothing of that sort. They were showing their pure hate. It was just raw hate for Hinduism, for Hindus, for everyone who was voting or who had voted for the prime minister. I remember there were tweets and posts which said that if you voted for the prime minister, you should be guilty, you should be ashamed of yourself, you should probably think about your sins and things like that. There was this whole guilt trap phenomena that was going on Instagram during the CA protest, I remember. And then we saw some videos from the university campuses as well, JNU, Jamia, the kind of protest they were saying, Bharat tere tukde honge, inshallah, inshallah, and all those nonsensical things. That is the leftist culture of hate, which I really want to discuss with you today in greater detail. But is this an Indian phenomena? No. If you go outside, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, he has seen many protests on his watch. Perhaps in the first week of his rule itself, there were protests outside the White House. And then there was a pop star, Madonna, I mean, one of the world's most famous pop stars. She made this statement, which was even carried out by the Wall Street Journal. It said, sometimes I think about blowing up the White House. Now, it's a very politically incorrect would be an understatement. It's a very absurd statement to make that I sometimes think about blowing up the White House. Donald Trump doesn't represent the White House. It's a temporary thing. He will be president for 4 years. He has been for 4 years. He might be for 8. But to blow up the White House, that was the kind of statements the left is making, and they make it every day. We saw during the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, this is the problem of the left hate culture. They do not question the policies. They do not put up arguments. They do not give better solutions or alternate viewpoints. What they propagate is sheer raw hate. It might be against a prime minister, sitting president, former prime minister, current home minister, anyone. As long as people who agree with them, they're fine, they're part of the bandwagon. If you do not agree with them, you are recipients of their raw hate. So why does this happen? I could give you a number of reasons. They could vary from religion to communities to geographies. I could give you a lot of reasons. But I'll sum it up for the clarity and for the sake of space into 4 major points. The first point is that for the left, hate is a license. Now, if the right were to, for to give you an example, let's just jump to an example. For example, what we saw with PETA. Now, suddenly they made a huge hue and cry about Raksha Bandhan and cows. We discussed it in one of our former Standpoint videos. And when they were silent on Bakrid, for them, hate is a license. They like to propagate hate against a certain community, which is usually the Hindus or the Christians in the United States. They like to propagate hate. The left, it likes to propagate hate and hate for against the Hindus, against the sitting government. They see hate as a license. They do not see hate as a wrong means of advocating the viewpoints. They see it as a license. So often you have people who want to have an alternate viewpoint, they'll be shut down. I remember this one instance from JNU. There was some student protest going on against the CA, against the fee hike rather. And Anand Ranganathan, you may have heard his voice in Times Now. He's also often a columnist for Swarajya. He was blocked from his own office. So he wanted to go inside research, and there were students standing outside saying that, no, we won't let you go in. And the video surfaced online. The hate was purely visible. So this is one reason the left likes to propagate hate. They see it as a license. They see it as the whole way to propagate their alternate viewpoint, which is entirely wrong. The second reason is lack of relevance. The left in India, if I talk about it, they're not getting the votes anymore. Their policies have failed. The leaders they have tried to put forward, namely Rahul Gandhi, the people have not taken that, accepted that rather. The elections have been lost. So the left today struggles with credibility, not just communist parties, even the parties which are inclined heavily towards the left, even the Congress party today. They're not of any relevance anymore. They're detached from reality. They're detached from every policy that is doing good on the ground. For instance, the Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, the JAM Trinity, which was a big achievement of the Modi government's first tenure. The left was completely detached from it. They were actually mocking it, that, oh, what will happen if a few houses get cylinders? Of course, once the elections of 2019 concluded, they realized their folly and they realized that, yes, the schemes do work. So the lack of relevance is the second reason. The third reason is moral superiority. Now, I saw this during the CA protests. I saw it during the 370, the Ram Mandir judgment, and you'll see it over the next 3 days as the Bhumi Pujan date draws closer. There's this moral superiority with the left. They feel they have the claim to all the morality in this world. We saw it the Aam Aadmi Party too in the beginning. They said only we are honest. Everyone else is dishonest. And we remember one tweet from Arvind Kejriwal too, that Modi is a liar and a psychopath. Now, this is the kind of hate the left propagates. Now, you might see that Arvind Kejriwal has mellowed down since then. These are just examples. You can pinpoint so many examples from so many political events, but these are just a few examples I have for you. The left, even during the CA, they were somehow claiming to be the moral the protectors of the morality. I remember Farhan Akhtar sitting in one of these protests in Mumbai, and one journalist walked up to him and said, "Why are you protesting?" And his answer was, if so many people are coming together and protesting, something might be wrong. Now, this is the kind of moral superiority complex the left carries, and which fuels further hate from their end against the Hindus, against the likes of BJP government, or perhaps even President Donald Trump in the West. The last reason is the right to rule. Now, if you've seen with the Congress party, with the left, and a lot of other university students, the protests which happen, you see this unusual claim. They feel they have the right to rule, and people who have been democratically elected and voted to power, they have somehow snatched the power. There's some sort of fascism that is going on. So if they see a Narendra Modi, they'll see, oh no, this is a fascist government, even though he's got the greatest vote share in the history of modern India. But even then they'll complain or claim that this is a fascist rule. Why? Because the left cannot shake off this mentality that they do not have the right to rule. Sure, they can contest elections, they can fight elections and claim rule by virtues of the constitution. But they feel they have a right to rule. We see that with the Congress government. We see that with the Gandhi family. We see that with a lot of communist parties also in the likes of Bengal and other parts of Eastern India. But this is their problem, the right to rule. To so sum it up in 4 problems why the left hate culture exists is: 1, that they see hate as a license; 2, the lack of relevance; 3, the moral superiority; and 4, the right to rule, which they think is only belonging to them. Now, of course, I can go on and on about how it is wrong, how it is morally incorrect, how the right should respond to it. But it's time for people on the left to introspect that if they really want to stay relevant, if they really want to come back to power someday, to govern someday in the rightful manner, is the hate going to be the medium? Because politics will always have differences of opinion. There will always be people on left side and the right side. But is calling for the death of the Home Minister a way to propagate your viewpoint? This is something people and every supporter of the left-wing government should give a thought about. Thank you.